So 2007. So there's a little pattern going on there because I retired in 2000. I felt pretty good till 2001, and then things started happening with my health again in 2001. Then 2004 is when I got diagnosed with a tumor. 2007 is when I had the shingles. 2010 is when I got hit with the energy weapons and had the siren go off in my head. And we go from 2010 to 2013, which was last year. I make some notes for myself sometimes so I don't forget some things. I want to talk about the other health effects. I talked about the digestion. We're talking about sometimes extreme indigestion can be caused by this stuff. Sometimes you get extremely cold, and sometimes you're extremely heated. You can have hiccups at an unexpected time. The voice, thyroid seems to be a favorite. I used to feel this kind of lump feeling in my throat. This was in the years between 93 and before I stopped teaching. Sometime during that time, I thought, why does my throat feel like that? So I think thyroid cancer is probably one of their faves. They have a whole list of things they can do with this. This is terrible, terrible stuff. This is a type of attack on humanity. And not only do we have the directed energy weapons, electromagnetic weapons in various forms. I've talked about the tiny ones that are it's like small cell phones all the way up to, we're talking, the whole network we're talking about is whatever they bring into the neighbor's house and set up there, or the neighbor's garage or the neighbor's barn, whatever those mobile units are that they bring into the motels, whatever they wire into the vehicles. We're talking about towers, all kinds of towers everywhere, substations of various sizes and shapes. We've got the little boxes sitting around that's a substation, and then down the road we've got the great big one that's the size of a large building with the big fence around it. And then those come in much bigger forms that they put around all the industrial areas. One of the things I noticed when I came back to Ohio was how many more lines and wires there were everywhere. And they have many different forms now. It's not just the wires. They've got all this extra stuff added onto them that's supposed to be to facilitate all the electronics that we have. And some of those are for that reason. And then there's more. We've got all kinds of towers everywhere. They're not all cell phone towers. Some of them have other uses. We've got the various dishes. We got people that have dishes on their houses. And we've got the dishes, the large dishes that are like at the telephone sites, and the whole electrical system in each house I've been in. I realized my electrical system in my house in Colorado was compromised. My electrical system in the first farmhouse, not as much, but the electrical system in the second farmhouse was compromised. The electrical system in this house, that means that Somebody came in and did things to this house after I agreed to buy it, to my property. The utility people working with the contractors and or the intelligence firms and or whoever else is involved in this. So I know the electrical system is compromised, and I'm not going to go into all the instances of what I found, but I showed you my handy dandy little bug detector, and I have used that in the house. And I just found something else in the last couple days. I had indications, and then I found I found something else. So I don't know, and I don't know what's under the house. I know there's two parts of the under the house. There's the original part, which is real small, and I've been under there, and I took out the mouse thing that was under there. I don't know what's under the main part of the house. The crawl space is real low, and the guy that did the home inspection went under there, and somebody else has been under there to help with a water line repair. So there's satellites. I don't know how many satellites are up there. Many countries have satellites up there, and we have space stations up there. We have the HAARP locations. We have the HAARP up in Alaska, HAARP, and we have about 30 other HAARP type locations around the world. We have the fusion centers. Everybody should know about the fusion centers because they're part of all of this. We have, and just the lines themselves, like just down the road here, there's a little, almost looks like a solar type grid panel that's above the smaller little substation on the pole. And so there's interesting stuff happening there. And on the video from my trip to Washington 2 weeks ago, I shared what the electrical system looked like from the little building down the road where the car and the guy were, that I think were electromagnetically torturing me when I was trying to sleep up the hill in the little cemetery. So all of the stuff that's around, there are people that know what that is. They know how it works, and they have the expertise that regular citizens don't have. And they're not sharing that. They're not saying this is what we use this for. And then we have the computerized systems in the emergency vehicles and the lights that go with them. And there's a lot of siren, use of sirens. As I was watching the videos from the Cowboy and Horse Alliance, in some of the videos you can hear that little beep beep of the little tractors. What are they called? The little ones that you use in your yard, that they have the little backup sound. When did somebody decide we needed those backup sounds? Don't run over anybody. Well, sure, that makes sense. Don't run over anybody. But they're being used for harassment. Just like I said, guns had been used for harassment against me. Don't hunt in my yard. If you're going to hunt, be out in the forest. They hunted around me. There were 3 different incidents staged around me that I realize now were purposeful. They were done specifically because they knew I didn't like it. Health issues. We deserve to be well. We have a right to clean water. It's a human right. We have a right to clean air. It's a human right. If you don't know what's going on in the geoengineering world, you should Google that, because the geoengineering scientists are doing harm. They're throwing aluminum and barium and various other substances up into the atmosphere to try to block the sun, to block global warming, supposedly. And that stuff's all falling back down on us and getting in our water and into our soil and into us. And it's kind of a grand experiment. They don't know exactly how it's all going to come out, but you know, science is neutral, supposedly. No, not when you're doing stuff that's going to cause harm to living beings. People matter. The sun is important. It's a part of our natural physiological support system. And all this, how often do you see a clear blue sky with the sun coming up in the morning bright and going down at the end of the day bright? How often do you get to see that? You see all this color stuff, all these beautiful pictures with color. Well, all the colors are created by all those unnatural things that are in the air. So this is an overarching, multifaceted issue that we're dealing with. And there are some people in the articles that I've read that say the stuff they're putting up in there is not only to block the sun, but it's also to get into our bodies, so we'll be conductors for the electromagnetic stuff. So they'll be able to affect us more seriously and cause us harm, to make us ill. I've been ill. Wasn't any fun. A lot of people have been ill. In my lifetime, as I watch more and more people get sick with cancer, various kinds of cancer, I kept thinking, why are more and more people having cancer? Because it really wasn't a disease of my grandparents' generation, or not so much of my parents even. It's kind of like it hit the boomers and on down. Now we've got all these little children with all these terrible cancers. We've got thousands of different names for cancers now, and they're all 2 or 3 word long, unpronounceable names. I don't think it's okay to keep attacking. If you look at various people that are on the news or on the internet, people that appear regularly out in the world, journalists, people like that, you can look at them and see the face discoloration of people that have been more critical of the government, journalists that have spoken up and spoken out. And how many people are chosen to be severely attacked? Sleep deprivation for 4 years is a severe violation of human rights, and Attorney General Holder says it's unlawful to torture in the United States, yet people like me, whether there's a few hundred or several 100,000 or millions of us, have been tortured in our homes. Extreme torture for the last 4 years of sleep deprivation. Siren in my head. I talked in one of the other videos about what I dug out of my toes. I've dug a bunch of stuff out of my body. When will it stop? When does it stop? When do we say this is not okay? As I said, the politicians are calling regular citizens names. They're domestic terrorists, or they're radical activists, or they're combative, or they're paranoid, or waterboarding is okay. John Kiriakou, I'm not sure I pronounced his name right the last time I said it. John Kiriakou's in prison for revealing the name of a person who was undercover, and talking about waterboarding. Wonder what he would say from prison about the person who said that waterboarding should be used on so-called terrorists. I forget what the actual phrase was. Baptizing them with waterboarding, I believe. Concept of baptizing with waterboarding. We can keep labeling each other, and we can keep fighting amongst ourselves and talking about how this, I talked about that the other day. We can keep letting them label us, and we can keep labeling each other. That's the plan. Divide and conquer. I, for one, think the Cowboy and Indian Alliance is a pretty cool thing. I like it when the lady Casey Camp speaks up and said, they've already gone through my relative's land, pointing to the lady from Texas who's got a lawsuit going down there. And she said, and now he's turned on his own. Like I said, the last time I made videos, they came for me. No one's speaking up. It's set up that way. It's structured that way. Isolate, slander. They came for a lot of other people. I watched a video this morning of a lady from Poland when the Germans marched into her beautiful city, sent her family to live in the basement before they took her brother away, and she never knew what happened to him. Before they took her father away, before she and her mother were taken and divided, and she was sent off for 6 years to do slave labor. And then after they realized that they were going to lose the war, they took them out and made them walk somewhere, and most of them died on the walk. And she lived because her father had told her to put her winter boots on, and she wore those winter boots all those years, and that's why she survived. An American soldier, well, a Jewish man showed up. I'm not sure if he was an American at that time, but they ended up in the United States because she lives in Phoenix now. But they ended up together, the young man who showed up to help liberate, with the star on his Jeep instead of the swastika. And she told her story of what it was like when they came for her and her family. And her mother and father were killed in the concentration camp. She knows that. She doesn't know what happened to her brother. And her 3 friends didn't make it either, that she spent their 6 years with. They didn't make the walk when they should have just been released, they were tortured. And that's it for today.